Leora Vex felt cold sweat on her forehead as she stared at the blinking red lights on the control panel. The Kethran scientific vessel Astral Seeker floated quietly in the emptiness of deep space. Their experimental jump drive had failed during the last jump attempt. Now they were stranded in an unmapped region, far beyond the reaches of the Kethran Confederation. "Captain, life support systems are at 40% and dropping," said First Officer Morrow, his voice steady despite the fear Leora could see in his eyes. "Communications are severely damaged. We cannot send a long-range signal back to Kethran. Space." Leora nodded slowly. She had been captain of the Astral Seeker for 12 years. In all that time, she had never faced a situation this dire. The ship was designed for scientific research, not survival in uncharted void. "How long do we
have?" she asked.
"At current power levels, perhaps 3 months," said Chief Engineer Sala, her crystal-like skin reflecting the dim emergency lights. "Less if we try to maintain full life support for the entire crew." Leora looked around the command center at her crew, 22 of the brightest scientific minds in the Kethran Confederation. They had volunteered for this mission to test the new jump drive technology that would have revolutionized space travel. Instead, they were now facing death in the cold emptiness between stars. "We have one option," Leora said after a long moment of thought. "We put most of the crew in stasis pods. This will conserve our resources. I will remain awake to manage what power we have left and to broadcast a distress signal on all frequencies. Captain, the chances of anyone receiving a signal out here are extremely small," said Communications Officer Den. "We are far beyond any mapped routes." "Small chances are better than no chances," Leora replied firmly. "Prepare the stasis pods. Everyone except me will enter suspended animation. I will stay awake as long as possible to maintain the signal." The crew followed, her orders without question. Within hours, 21 Kethrans were safely in their stasis pods, their life functions slowed to almost nothing. Leora sat alone in the dim light of the command center, the only sound the quiet hum of the few systems still running. She adjusted the emergency beacon to broadcast on all known frequencies. The message was simple. "This is Captain Leora Vex of the Kethran vessel Astral Seeker. We are stranded with failing systems. 21 lives depend on assistance. Please respond." Days turned into weeks. Leora moved through the silent ship like a ghost, checking systems and making small repairs where possible. She kept a log of her activities, speaking into the ship's recorder to maintain her sanity in the crushing loneliness. "Day 46, she said to the recorder. "Power levels at 22%. I have shut down all non-essential systems. The stasis pods are functioning normally. No response to our distress call." She spent hours staring at the view screen, watching the distant stars that seemed to mock her with their cold, unreachable light. The Kethrans were an ancient species that had traveled space for thousands of years. They had mapped hundreds of star systems and made contact with dozens of other species, yet they had never ventured this far into the unexplored void. Their databases contained no record of nearby systems or potential help. As the second month passed, Leora began to lose hope. The ship's power reserves continued to drop despite her best efforts to conserve energy. Soon she would have to choose between maintaining the stasis pods and continuing the distress signal. "Day 72, she recorded. "Power at 12%. I have reduced life support in my section to minimum levels. The temperature is dropping. I wear my thermal suit at all times now. Still no response to our call." The cold seeped into her bones as she reduced the heat even further. Her breathing created small clouds in the freezing air of the command center. She had lost weight, surviving on minimal rations. Still, she maintained her routine, checking the stasis pods and adjusting the broadcast signal. On day 84, a power relay failed. 3 of the stasis pods switched to emergency mode. Leora worked for hours in the freezing engineering bay, her fingers numb as she replaced damaged components with parts taken from non-essential systems. She saved the EI pods, but the effort cost precious energy. Day 85, she recorded, her voice now thin and tired. "Power at 7%. Estimated time until complete failure, 14 days. I will continue broadcasting until the end. Each day became a struggle. Leora slept only in short bursts, always waking to check the systems in the endless void outside. She had begun to hallucinate from exhaustion and low oxygen, sometimes thinking she heard voices from the empty corridors of the ship. On day 97, with power levels at critical 4%, Leora made her final recording. This is Captain Leora Vex of the Astral Seeker. Our mission has failed. My crew remains in stasis, but our power will soon be gone. I have set the emergency beacon to broadcast on the lowest setting possible. It will be the last system operating, when everything else fails. To whoever might find this record someday, know that we tried everything possible to survive. The Kethran Confederation should be proud of this crew. With shaking hands, she set the final power protocols. The beacon would continue its lonely broadcast until the last energy cell died. Then she walked slowly to her own stasis pod. There was no guarantee she would ever wake up, but it was her only chance. As the stasis field activated, Leora's last conscious thought was of the signal traveling through the void, growing fainter with each passing day. A whisper in the darkness that no one would likely hear. The Astral Seeker drifted silently in the vastness of space, a tiny speck in the infinite blackness. Inside, 22 Kethrans slept in their crystal pods while the emergency beacon continued its quiet plea for help. Unknown to Leora, her signal was about to reach someone. 2 weeks of travel away, a human exploratory vessel called the Horizon Breaker was mapping this frontier region. The ship's communication system was about to pick up a faint, unusual pattern on an old emergency frequency, and Captain Alan Mercer of the United Earth Alliance was about to make a decision that would change the future for both species. The United Earth Alliance vessel Horizon Breaker moved smoothly through the frontier of unexplored space. The ship was on a routine exploratory mission under the command of Captain Alan Mercer. For the past 3 weeks, they had been mapping this region for potential mining operations and cataloging stellar phenomena. Alan sat in his command chair, reviewing reports from the science team. He was in his 40s with short gray hair and weather-lined features from years spent under distant suns. The Horizon Breaker was one of Earth's newest exploratory vessels, equipped with advanced sensors and a crew of 60 chosen specifically for deep space missions. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Communications Officer Samantha Wright. Her fingers moved quickly over her console as she adjusted settings. "It's faint, but it's definitely artificial." Alan looked up from his reports. "What kind of signal?" "Repeating pattern on an old emergency frequency," Samantha replied, her brow furrowed in concentration. "It's not matching any known Earth or allied species formats." The bridge grew quiet as the crew realized what this might mean. Humanity had encountered several alien species since achieving faster-than-light travel 30 years ago, but a new first contact was still a rare and significant event. "Can you clean it up?" Alan asked, moving to stand behind Samantha's station. "Working on it," she said. After a moment, she played the signal through the bridge speakers. The sound was unlike anything they had heard before, a series of tones and pulses that clearly had structure but followed no known pattern. Yet something about it was unmistakable. "That's a distress call," said Paul Duncan, the ship's navigator. The tall, dark-skinned man had served on rescue vessels before joining the Horizon Breaker. "The pattern repeats every 90 seconds. Classic emergency beacon configuration, just using a different mathematical base than we do." Alan nodded. "Can we trace it?" Paul turned to his navigation console and began calculating. "Based on signal strength and degradation, it's coming from a region with no charted systems, about 2 weeks' travel at maximum sustainable speed." "Any 2 other vessels nearby that might be closer?" Alan asked. Samantha checked the network. "Negative, Captain. We're the only Earth ship in this sector. The nearest Meridian vessel is a month away at best." Alan didn't hesitate. Humanity had built its reputation among the stars not just through technology or trade, but through their willingness to help. Unlike some older spacefaring races who kept to themselves, humans were known for answering distress calls regardless of origin. "Set course for the signal source," Maximum sustainable speed, he ordered. Samantha, contact Earth Command. Inform them we're responding to an unidentified distress call and send them the signal pattern. Yes, sir, Samantha replied. Paul, give me your best estimate on how long that signal has been broadcasting. The navigator studied his readings. Based on the decay rate and power signature, possibly 3 to 4 months, sir. Whatever sent it has been out there a long time. Alan turned to his second-in-command, Lisa Chen. Prepare the crew for a rescue operation. We have no idea what we're going to find out there, but I want all departments ready. Medical team on standby? Lisa asked. Absolutely. We could be dealing with injured survivors of any species. Alan returned to his chair. And Lisa, let's run first contact protocols in the simulators. If this is a species we haven't met before, I want everyone prepared. As the horizon breaker changed course, the mood on the ship shifted from routine exploration to focused anticipation. For most of the crew, this would be their first rescue mission in deep space, possibly their first encounter with an unknown species. In the medical bay, Dr. Olivia Peters reviewed the ship's database of alien physiologies. Though humanity had only officially contacted 5 other spacefaring species, their medical archives contained information on dozens more, shared by their allies. Problem is, she explained to her medical team, we have no way of knowing what we're dealing with. Could be a species similar to the Meridians, basically humanoid with copper-based blood. Or they could be something completely different. Like the Vrel hive mind? Asked Nurse Greg Foster. Exactly, Olivia nodded. So we prepare for everything. Full isolation protocols until we confirm there are no biological hazards. Universal, translator ready, and we'll need to adapt quickly based on what we find. Meanwhile, in engineering, Rick Martinez led his team in preparing their rescue equipment. We might need to provide emergency power to an alien vessel, he told them. Our standard connectors won't work, so we'll need to fabricate adapters on the spot. The ship's 3D printers began producing specialized tools and adaptable coupling, mechanisms that could potentially interface with unknown technology. The engineering team studied the faint signal for any clues about the technology that created it. Days passed as the horizon breaker pushed through space at maximum speed. The signal grew slightly stronger, but remained frustratingly difficult to decode. Samantha worked tirelessly with the ship's AI to extract any additional information. I think I've isolated some data packets within the main signal, she reported to Alan on the 5th day of their journey. There's a repeating sequence that might be identification of some kind. Can we translate it? Not yet, but there's definitely a mathematical pattern. Whatever sent this signal is intelligent and technically advanced. On the 8th day, they received a message from Earth Command. Proceed with caution, Admiral Reed told them via subspace communication. Your primary mission is to render assistance, but remember first contact protocols. This could be a significant diplomatic opportunity. Understood, Admiral, Alan replied. We'll do our best on both counts. As they entered the 2nd week of their journey, the crew's training intensified. They ran simulations of various rescue scenarios, from providing emergency repairs to evacuating survivors from a critically damaged vessel. The medical team prepared treatment facilities for unknown physiologies, while security established safe contact procedures. 1 day out, Paul announced on the 13th day. Signal source is now clearly identifiable as a vessel of some kind. Size suggests a medium-range ship, roughly comparable to our science vessels. Alan called the senior staff to the conference room. Tomorrow we make contact, he told them. We have no idea what we'll find, but we go in with our best face forward. This is what Earth vessels do. We answer the call, no matter who sends it. He looked around at his team. Lisa will lead the initial communication attempt. Dr. Peters, have medical teams ready. Rick, your engineers should stand by to provide emergency power if needed. All teams will maintain quarantine protocols until we confirm it's safe. That night, as the horizon breaker closed the final distance to the stranded ship, Alan stood alone at the observation window. In the distance, he could just make out a faint speck against the backdrop of stars, their destination. We're coming, he whispered to the unknown vessel. Hold on just a little longer. The human ship continued its approach, ready to make history, not through conquest or discovery, but through a simple act of compassion, answering a call for help from the darkness of space. The horizon breaker approached the drifting vessel slowly. In the light of the ship's external beams, they could now see the stranded craft clearly. It was elegant in design, with a smooth, curved hull that seemed to shimmer despite the damage visible on its surface. The alien ship had clearly been drifting for months, its hull marked with micrometeorite impacts and radiation scarring. "Scan complete," announced Science Officer Vega from her station. "The vessel appears to be built primarily from a crystalline alloy we've never encountered before. No weapon systems detected. Design suggests a scientific or exploration vessel." Alan studied the image on the main view screen. "Life signs?" "Very faint readings," Dr. Peters reported from her medical station. "I'm detecting multiple biosignatures in what appear to be suspended animation chambers. One signature is different from the others, weaker, possibly critically endangered." "Their power grid is almost completely drained," Engineer Rick added, as he analyzed the data. "Main systems are offline, life support is running on emergency reserves only. By my estimate, they'll fail completely within hours." Alan considered this information carefully. This wasn't just a rescue mission anymore. It was a race against time. These unknown beings were moments away from death. "Communications?" he asked, turning to Samantha. "No response to standard hailing frequencies, Captain. Their communication systems appeared damaged beyond function." Alan made his decision. "We need to board that vessel. Rick, you'll lead the boarding team with Dr. Peters. Priority 1 is stabilizing their life support systems. Establish communication if possible." "What about potential hazards, sir?" asked Security Chief Nicole Banks. "We know nothing about this species." "Full environmental suits and standard quarantine protocols," Alan confirmed. "But we move quickly. Those people are dying." Within 20 minutes, a team of 6 crew members assembled in the airlock. They wore sealed environmental suits that would protect them from any biological or environmental hazards. Dr. Peters carried medical equipment adapted for unknown physiologies, while Rick brought portable power sources and universal connectors. 2 security officers accompanied them, along with a linguistics specialist. "Boarding shuttle ready for launch," reported the pilot. "Proceed," Alan ordered. He watched on the monitors as the small craft detached from the horizon breaker and maneuvered toward the alien vessel. The boarding team found a compatible airlock on the alien ship. After several attempts, Rick managed to interface their equipment with the alien technology and override the emergency locks. "We're in," he reported back to the horizon breaker. "Atmosphere is thin but breathable. Temperature is near freezing. Emergency lighting only." The team moved carefully through the darkened corridors of the alien ship. Their helmet lights illuminated walls made of the same shimmering material as the hull, etched with delicate patterns that might have been decorative or functional. "These readings are fascinating," Dr. Peters said as they advanced. "The stasis chambers are ahead, but there's a single life form in what I believe is the command center." The team made their way to the command center, a circular room filled with control panels that glowed faintly in the darkness. There, slumped in what appeared to be the captain's chair, was a being unlike any they had seen before. The alien was roughly humanoid, with 2 arms and legs, but its skin had a crystalline quality that reflected their lights. Its face featured multiple faceted eyes and a breathing apparatus that seemed to be failing. "It's alive, but barely," Dr. Peters said, kneeling beside. "The alien appears to be suffering from extreme cold exposure and oxygen deprivation." The alien's eyes flickered open at their approach. It stared at the human boarding party with visible shock, its multifaceted eyes widening. Dr. Peters worked quickly, applying emergency medical treatments while Rick connected their portable power sources to the alien systems. The lights in the command center brightened slightly as power began to flow. "The translator is picking up language patterns," said Linguistics Officer Maya Reed. "Their ship's computer is helping to build a translation matrix. We should be able to communicate soon." The alien captain watched them work, too weak to move but clearly alert. As the ship's systems received power, warmth began to return to the command center. Life support is stabilizing, Rick reported. I've got minimal power flowing to essential systems. The stasis pods are secure. After several tense minutes, Maya's translator began to work. Can you understand me? She asked the alien captain. The alien's response came through the translator in a halting, mechanical voice. Yes, I understand. You came. You heard our call. We did, Maya confirmed. We're from the United Earth Alliance vessel Horizon Breaker. We're here to help. The alien seemed to struggle with this concept. You are humans? We know of your species, rumors only, never direct contact. Yes, we're humans, Dr. Peters said gently as she administered a treatment to help stabilize the alien's condition. I'm Dr. Olivia Peters. Can you tell us your name and species? I am Captain Leora Vex of the Kethran scientific vessel Astral Seeker, the alien replied, her voice growing slightly stronger as the treatment took effect. My crew, 21 scientists. Are they? They're stable in the stasis pods, Dr. Peters reassured her. We detected their life signs. Our team will help restore power to keep the pods functioning properly. Leora's eyes glinted with what might have been tears, though the liquid seemed to shimmer like liquid crystal. We broadcasted for so long, no one should have heard us this far from known space. Rick looked up from the power coupling he was adjusting. How long have you been stranded? 97 days by our count, Leora replied. Our experimental jump drive failed catastrophically. We had no way to repair it. Alan's voice came through the team's communication system. Tell her that's what humans do. We answer the call. Maya relayed the message, and Leora stared at the humans with new understanding. Your species came all this way for strangers? The Kethran Confederation has existed for thousands of years, yet even we would hesitate to divert a vessel so far for an unknown signal. It's standard procedure for Earth vessels, Rick said as he continued working. No one gets left behind out here, not even strangers. As more power flowed into the Astral Seeker's systems, Rick accessed the ship's database with Leora's permission. Captain, I'm sending data back to our ship. Their technology is incredible. Crystalline computing matrices, light-based data storage. Some of this is centuries beyond our capabilities. Focus on life support first, Alan reminded him. We can admire their technology later. After an hour of work, the boarding team had established stable power to the Astral Seeker's critical systems. The temperature was rising to comfortable levels and oxygen was flowing properly again. Dr. Peters reported that Leora's condition was improving rapidly. The Kethrans appear to have remarkable regenerative capabilities, she told Alan. Captain, Vex is recovering much faster than a human would under similar circumstances. What about the rest of her crew? Alan asked. The stasis pods are functioning normally, Rick reported, but we'll need to take the Astral Seeker to a proper facility to revive them safely. Their jump drive is beyond repair with our current tools. Alan considered the situation. Prepare to establish a tow link. We'll bring them to Callisto Station. It's the nearest human outpost with adequate facilities. When Maya translated this plan to Leora, the Kethran captain seemed overwhelmed. Your people would do this? Tow our vessel to your own territory? The resources required. We'll discuss compensation and diplomatic details later, Maya assured her. Right now, our priority is saving your crew. As the boarding team prepared the Astral Seeker for towing, Leora watched them with growing wonder. The humans moved efficiently, adapting their technology to work with the Kethran systems with impressive ingenuity. We had heard stories, she said quietly to Maya, that humans were an impulsive young species, that you expanded too quickly into space. But perhaps that impulsiveness is also your greatest strength. The first official contact between humans and Kethrans was not marked by formal diplomatic meetings or careful negotiations. Instead, it began with a simple act of compassion, answering a call from the darkness of space and working together to save lives hanging by a thread. Over the next several days, as the Horizon Breaker towed the damaged Kethran vessel toward Callisto Station, an unexpected cultural exchange began to unfold. The human ship extended their artificial gravity field to stabilize the astral seeker during transit, allowing them to maintain a constant connection between the vessels. Captain Allen approved a small team to remain aboard the Kethrin ship to monitor systems and continue repairs. Meanwhile, Dr. Peters suggested that slowly reviving some of the Kethrin crew from stasis might be beneficial. Captain Vex's recovery has been remarkable, she explained during the daily briefing, and having more Kethrin technical experts awake would help us understand their systems better. Allen agreed. Work with Captain Vex to identify which crew members would be most helpful to revive first. Start with their chief engineer and medical officer if possible. 2 days later, 3 more Kethrins had been safely awakened from stasis. Among them was Ben Jex, the Astral Seeker's chief engineer, who immediately began working alongside Rick to repair more of the ship's damaged systems. The 2 engineers developed an unusual friendship despite the challenges of communication. The translation matrix improved daily, but technical concepts often required creative explanation. Your technology is so different from ours, Rick said as they worked to repair a power coupling. These crystalline matrices store information in light patterns instead of electronic signals. Ben studied the human tools with equal fascination. Your approach is more direct. Less elegant perhaps, but extremely adaptable. We would never have thought to interface our systems the way you have. That's kind of our specialty, Rick replied with a smile. Humans are good at improvising solutions. Ben's faceted eyes glinted with what Rick had come to recognize as amusement. Your species is so young compared to ours. The Kethrin Confederation has existed for over 10,000 years, yet you've ventured this far into the unknown with technology, less advanced than ours. Rick shrugged. That's also kind of our thing. Humans have always pushed boundaries before we're completely ready. Meanwhile, Dr. Peters worked with Talia Nev, the Kethrin medical officer, exchanging knowledge about their respective biologies. The humans learned that Kethrins were silicon-based life forms with crystalline cellular structures that gave them their distinctive appearance and remarkable regenerative abilities. Your adaptability is astonishing, Talia noted while reviewing human medical data. Your species can survive conditions that would kill most spacefaring races we know. We evolved on a planet with widely varying environments, Dr. Peters explained. Our ancestors had to adapt to everything from tropical heat to Arctic cold, sometimes within the same lifetime as they migrated. Perhaps that explains your willingness to venture into unknown regions, Talia suggested. You are, biologically, predisposed to seek out and adapt to new environments. In the shared command center they had established between the 2 ships, Captain Allen and Leora spent hours in diplomatic discussions. The Kethrin Confederation had existed for thousands of years, but had become conservative in their exploration, preferring to perfect their understanding of known regions rather than push into uncharted space. Our latest mission was considered quite daring by Confederation standards, Leora explained. Testing the new jump drive technology in unexplored regions was approved only after years of debate. Many felt it was unnecessarily risky. Yet you volunteered to lead it, Allen observed. I have always believed we should look outward more, she admitted. The universe is vast, and we have explored so little of it. But our long history has made many Kethrins cautious. We have encountered civilizations that rose and fell while ours endured. It gives us a different perspective on time and risk. Allen considered this. Humans are almost the opposite. We've been in space for less than 3 centuries, but we've expanded quickly. Some say too quickly. Is that why you answered our call? Leora asked. Because of this impulse to explore and expand? Partly, Allen acknowledged. But it's more than that. Exploring space isn't just about finding new resources or expanding territory. It's about connection. If we ignore distress calls because they don't come from our own kind, what's the point of reaching for the stars at all? This concept seemed to intrigue Leora deeply. The next day, she requested permission to address the human crew. Allen arranged a video link so she could speak to everyone aboard the Horizon Breaker. People of Earth, she began, her translated voice flowing through the ship's communication system. I wish to formally thank you for saving my crew. In our 10,000 years of space travel, the Kethran Confederation has encountered many species. Some became allies, some competitors, and some we simply acknowledged and avoided. But never have we met a species that would divert a ship for weeks to answer an unknown distress call in unexplored space. She paused, her crystalline features catching the light. This action speaks to a quality that may be unique to humans, a willingness to help strangers even at great cost and risk to yourselves. It is a trait my people once had but perhaps have forgotten during our long history. You have reminded us of what space exploration should truly be about. As the journey continued, more Kethrans were safely revived. The cultural exchange deepened, with humans and Kethrans sharing meals modified for their different biologies, trading stories of their homeworlds and teaching each other songs and art from their respective cultures. The Kethrans showed the humans their light-sculpting art form, creating three-dimensional images by manipulating crystal fragments to refract light in complex patterns. In return, the humans introduced the Kethrans to music genres from classical to jazz, discovering that while Kethran hearing was different from human, they could appreciate the mathematical patterns in human music. Communications Officer Samantha worked with her Kethran counterpart Den to upgrade the translation matrix. The more they worked together, the more they realized both species approached language and communication in fundamentally different ways. Kethran language is built around consensus and longevity, Samantha explained to Alan after a long work session. Many of their concepts assume a shared understanding that spans centuries. While human languages prioritize efficiency and innovation, Den added, you create new words constantly and adapt existing ones. It mirrors your approach to exploration, adaptable, constantly evolving. 5 days before reaching Callisto Station, Alan received a priority message from Earth Alliance Command. After reviewing it, he called Leora to a private meeting. The diplomatic corps is preparing for your arrival, he told her. This will be the first official contact between humans and Kethrans. They're treating it as a major diplomatic event. Leora seemed concerned. I'm not a diplomat, Alan. I'm a scientist. I have no authority to represent the Confederation in official negotiations. Neither am I, Alan admitted with a smile. But we've already established the foundation for something important here. Whatever the diplomats decide, our crews have already shown that our species can work together. Leora considered this, her crystalline features reflecting the soft light of the meeting room. Perhaps that is the most valuable first contact, not between governments but between people who found each other in the vastness of space. As the joined vessels approached the edges of human-controlled space, both crews felt a sense of anticipation. What had begun as a simple rescue mission was about to change the relationship between two civilizations. The humans had answered a call from the darkness and in doing so had connected with a species that might become their greatest allies. We will be arriving at Callisto Station tomorrow, Alan announced to both crews. What happens there will be the beginning of a new chapter for both our peoples. Callisto Station appeared on the view screens as a gleaming structure against the backdrop of Jupiter. The massive human outpost served as a gateway to the outer solar system, with dozens of ships of various sizes docked at its extending arms. As the Horizon Breaker approached, towing the Astral Seeker, a flurry of small vessels moved to escort them. They're giving us quite the welcome, Alan remarked as he stood on the bridge with Leora beside him. Is this normal procedure? She asked, her crystalline features reflecting the lights from the control panels. Not exactly, Alan admitted. Word of our first contact with the Kethrans has spread. This is becoming a historic moment. On the main communication screen, a formal-looking woman appeared. Captain Mercer, this is Director Elena Walsh of Callisto Station. You and your guests are cleared for priority docking at Bay 12. The diplomatic delegation is standing by. Understood, Director, Alan replied. Please inform Medical that we have 18 Kethrans still in stasis, who will need specialized care during revival. Already. Arranged, Captain. We've prepared facilities based on the data you sent ahead. As the two ships were guided into the massive docking bay, crews on both vessels prepared for arrival. The Kethrans who had been revived gathered their few personal items and scientific data, while the humans organized the transfer of those still in stasis. Leora stood on the observation deck of the Horizon Breaker, watching as the massive human station came into view. The Kethrin scientist had spent her career studying distant stars, but she had never imagined she would visit an alien outpost under these circumstances. "Your people build quickly," she remarked to Alan, who stood beside her. "This station is barely a decade old, yet it rivals our oldest orbital facilities." "We had to," Alan replied. "Earth became too small for our curiosity, but for all our expansion, we've lacked perspective. Your people have thousands of years of cosmic observation we could learn from." The docking procedure went smoothly, and soon both ships were secured. A delegation waited for them at the airlock, a mix of station officials, diplomatic corps representatives, and medical personnel. When the doors opened, Alan stepped through first, followed by Leora and the awakened members of her crew. A moment of silence fell as humans and Kethrins faced each other in person for the first time, without environmental suits. Then Elena Walsh stepped forward. "On behalf of the United Earth Alliance, I welcome you to Callisto Station," she said formally. "This is a historic day for both our peoples." Leora responded with equal formality. "The Kethrin Confederation thanks you for your hospitality and for the rescue of our vessel. Without Captain Mercer and his crew, we would not be standing here today." The initial meeting was brief, as the priority was transferring the Kethrins still in stasis to the station's medical facilities. Dr. Peters worked alongside the station's medical team, explaining what they had learned about Kethrin physiology during the journey. Over the next week, the remaining Kethrins were successfully revived. The Astral Seeker was moved to a specialized repair dock where engineers from both species began the complex task of assessing the damage to the experimental jump drive. Meanwhile, official diplomatic contact was established with the Kethrin Confederation. When they received word that a scientific vessel had been rescued by humans, the Kethrin leadership responded with surprise and gratitude. A formal delegation was dispatched, though it would take several months to reach human space. "Until they arrive, you are the unofficial representatives of your people," Director Walsh told Leora and her crew during a meeting. "We hope you'll share what you can about your civilization, as we will share about ours." This began a period of intensive but friendly cultural and scientific exchange. The Kethrin scientists were given quarters on the station and access to human research facilities. In return, they shared selected knowledge from their vast scientific archives. Benjex and Rick continued their collaboration, now joined by human engineers from the station. Together, they began designing a hybrid system that combined Kethrin crystalline technology with human power generation methods. "If we can make this work," Rick said excitedly during a demonstration for station officials, "it could revolutionize our computing capabilities. Their light-based data storage is hundreds of times more efficient than our best systems," Ben added. "And human power generation techniques could solve efficiency problems that have limited our technology for centuries. We never considered such approaches because they seemed too direct." This pattern repeated across various fields. The Kethrins had perfected certain technologies over thousands of years, achieving elegant solutions that humans had not yet discovered. But humans had developed unexpected approaches and innovations that the more methodical Kethrins had overlooked. The rescue of the Astral Seeker became the foundation for the first formal alliance between humans and Kethrins. The Kethrin Confederation, impressed by humanity's willingness to help strangers at significant cost and risk, opened full diplomatic channels. Human adaptability and boldness complemented Kethrin patience and scientific precision. 6 months after their arrival at Callisto Station, a special ceremony was held. The Astral Seeker, now fully repaired and upgraded with hybrid technology, was ready to return to space, but it would not be going alone. The United Earth Alliance and the Kethrin Confederation are pleased to announce the formation of the Joint Exploration Initiative, announced the newly arrived Kethrin ambassador. This mission will combine the strengths of both our peoples to explore regions of space that neither would venture into alone. The repaired and upgraded Astral Seeker, now fitted with human emergency systems and reinforced hull plating, would set out for the uncharted regions once again. But this time, It would be accompanied by the Horizon Breaker and 2 other vessels, 1 human, 1 Kethran. On the command deck of the Astral Seeker, Leora welcomed several human crew members who had transferred to serve under her, including Rick Martinez, who had become fascinated by Kethran technology. Our scientists spent centuries debating whether to venture this far into unexplored space, Leora told the mixed crew during her pre-launch address. We calculated the risks, analyzed the potential benefits, and still hesitated. Then our journey nearly ended in disaster until humans, a species we barely knew existed, traveled weeks through unknown territory to answer our call. She looked at the humans among her crew, then at the Kethran officers. That single act of compassion has opened a new chapter for both our civilizations. Together we will explore farther than either of us would have dared alone. In the control room of Callisto Station, Alan watched as the small fleet prepared for departure. He had declined the offer to lead the human vessel in the expedition, choosing instead to train the next generation of deep space rescue specialists. I still don't understand what drove you to risk so much to save us, Leora had said during their farewell meeting. Alan smiled. There's an old human saying, the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats strangers. Out here in the void, everyone's a stranger until they answer your call. As the 4 ships activated their engines and moved in perfect formation toward the unexplored stars, 2 very different species found common purpose in the vastness of space, all because one human ship had answered a call from the darkness.